Good afternoon, everybody, and warm welcome on a chilly day in December for our last partner meeting of the year, and a big thanks there to our friends and colleagues at Explore Liverpool. Great version they took off the Christmas campaign we've been doing for this year. Been a bit different, of course, but many thanks to them. So today we're doing something a little bit different again. So we're going a bit hybrid today. So myself and Bill Addy are here at the MSP Studios in Aintree, and then my colleague James and others are at the Pullman Hotel. So today we're kind of demonstrating how you can actually take the virtual world and make it a hybrid world. So opportunities for businesses to look at how they can reimagine how they can reach audiences in a different way. So today's format, we've got quite a lot to go through today. So initially I'm going to kind of run through with Bill in a minute or two around sort of the year, the kind of way looking forward with Elven, sort of thoughts from Bill on the development of the bid and issues associated with that. We're then delighted that Dan Simmons is joining us from TXGB. This is a really important opportunity for businesses to look about how they can expand their opportunities in digital platforms. And I think if anything we've learned during the course of COVID is the real vital importance of digital infrastructure, reaching markets, getting to consumers as effectively as possible. And we're delighted with the partnership we're developing with TXGB, and he'll run through a bit more with that with you later on. We're then going to go over to the Pullman to meet James and the film office. I mean, the film office are doing a superb job in the city, and have been doing consistently for a number of years now. But I'm sure you all remember going back a month or so ago when we had Batman here and the city was turned into Gotham City, and the bed nights that generated for us at a time when we desperately needed them. And of course now we've also got the likes of Tin Star Liverpool on Sky Atlantic and many other great productions coming forward, which I think it's all bodes well for the city. And those guys will be kind of running through the opportunities and how they see film tourism developing after that. We'll also, during the course of this, be running Slido. You should have had all kind of details about how to use Slido. Use Slido not just for questions, but for any observations, any things you want us to have a look at. So it doesn't always have to be a question. It can just be something that you want to make a comment about, and then we'll try and get to as many of those as we can at the end of the session. We will wrap up by 1 o'clock. So just before I invite Bill to join the conversation, first of all, many thanks today to MSP, been great partners for us throughout the course of the COVID, and also today to the Pullman for lending their premises and their expertise to help put this hybrid event together. As you know now, we're 2 weeks into Tier 2. I think there's no doubt that the city is benefiting greatly from being in that position. We saw yesterday London going into Tier 3. We know that the next assessment of the tiers will be on the 16th. We're pretty confident in that space that Liverpool stay where it is in Tier 2. But can I just make a big shout out here for the smart testing project that is still going on, following on from the mass testing that fundamentally got Liverpool to this very position that it's in. It was because of mass testing that we are in Tier 2. So we're just encouraging everybody not to forget about smart testing, the opportunity to use the facilities in the city centre particularly, but numbers of others that are around the city, but Exhibition Centre, Liverpool One Town Hall, to go in and continually look at the smart testing opportunity to make sure that you're doing your bit to make sure that when you're in and about the city, you are negative at that moment in time. So please, that will help us, no doubt, keep us in that Tier 2 going into the important month of January. So let's get cracking then with Bill Addy. Everybody knows Bill Addy, but of course Bill's also now just coming off the back of his Man of the Year award, Bill, at the downtown, very successful downtown event at ACC, and also he's also been placed now at the heart of the resurgence of Everton Football Club, having been there on Saturday night amongst 2,000 other negative Everton fans, as you I'm sure would say, to bring them on to victory. So that's great stuff. So Bill, let's just kind of crack on first. But I mean, from your perspective, just looking at the tiers and the impact that's had on the retail, really important to the city these last couple of weeks. What's your kind of overview of that? How it's gone over the last couple of weeks?
Thanks, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that introduction. Never been classed as a negative Evertonian before, but I was delighted to be part of that. Chris has just said the reason we are in Tier 2, the reason that we were able to open up a large portion of our city was because of the hard work that's been done, and not just over the last few weeks, the hard work that's been done throughout this year to help the city, to help it recover, or to help it to deal with COVID, but then also to help it recover. So the fact that we came out of the national lockdown in early December, we came back into a city centre where retail, non-essential retail was able to open up, where restaurants were enabled to open up, where restaurants were able to operate until 11 p.m. at night. That's all because of the hard work, and the hard work that the city leadership, the private sector, and each individual member of this city, each individual citizen of Liverpool who's engaged in the mass testing program, because we do need to continue with that. We need to continue this hard work. We can't just let our guard down because we believe that part of the sector is open. We know that large portion of our hospitality sector has not reopened at all. And so we feel for our pubs that are not able to open, for our events and our performance venues, our events venues, our business events, all of that is not open. But it's good to see that there has been some recovery. So in the first 2 weeks since lockdown eased and we came out of that severe restriction into the form of the lower form of restriction, our footfall has started to recover. At the beginning of 2020, we were online for a record year because footfall had increased significantly above 2019, and then we know what happened in March, and we saw the figures coming back and the figures dropping. But footfall came back last week to about minus 30% of the year. So in rough numbers, during the full week, over 1.04 million people movement came into the city centre. That's into the bid area, which is Church Street, Lord Street, Bold Street, Castle Street, and also into Liverpool 1. So that's that activity that gives commercial activity back to our retailers. And because people came back into the city centre because they know it was safe to come in. We had researched our store checking campaign that ran during the part just before the first lockdown that showed that people were encouraged to come back in because they felt safe in the city centre. So it's good to see that, but there's a lot of hard work that we need to continue with.
Yeah, absolutely, Bill. Yeah, and I think if we kind of now look at, in a certain respect, look at what 21 is going to bring us, and the work that you've been doing as chair of Elven, meeting regularly throughout the course of the pandemic, and also the work you've done with the business leaders on a similarly regular basis. Clearly, looking at 21 as a tricky year, a year where we hopefully, vaccines permitting, we will start building back the audiences that we need to rebuild. But probably seeing that mainly coming probably in the first instance from a domestic perspective. And we're working with you on that 1 year plan, because against that 1 year plan backdrop, all our strategies really need to be rewritten, don't they? They really don't have the same validity that they had going into COVID. But as you look at that, I mean, when you're looking at the components of that recovery plan, the things that you begin to think that we really need to focus on as we hopefully start to see some light at the end of the tunnel, what are the areas that you kind of feel that plan really needs to bottom out and have that real rifle shot approach to?
Thanks, Chris. As you said, Elven has been meeting right throughout the pandemic. We started meeting weekly from March, and we've done that throughout the course of this year. What we need to do to put it into our plan to get the visitor economy recovering in the city and the city region, first thing is about survival. So we know that this year has not, revenues have been significantly reduced, jobs have been lost, businesses have gone out of business, and we need to make sure that the sector that we have, the businesses that we have still in place, the businesses that are still here in our city centre contributing to the visitor economy need to be in a secure position. That's why the key work that we've been doing around lobbying with the business leaders group about the grants and the work that the City Council are now doing in delivering those grants, working on a national basis to ensure that business support comes into being. We have in March at the moment, furlough is programmed to end. We've already seen the figures this morning in terms of the impact on the sector across the country in job losses. We can't afford any more job losses. We can't afford any more business losses. And we've got businesses that have not been able to reopen. I keep labouring that point, and we need to support them. So that's the key part about is ensuring that we maintain a control over the pandemic. So we still need to have in place all of the measures around social distancing, the hands, face, place. We all need to continue with that. We need to follow the guidance. We need to ensure that when the mass testing program is still in place and will stay in place for the foreseeable future. So we need to continue embracing that, getting tested on a regular basis. And then when the vaccine program rolls out, it started in Liverpool now, is to engage with that as well and to ensure that we can get our vulnerable vaccinated, then we can get the majority of society vaccinated, and we can get back into some normality. So they're the first things. So it's survival, dealing with the pandemic. Then we've got to have that period of steadiness. We've got to bed down, and we've got to be looking at how we build local tourism again. How do we get back into the city centre? You know, how do we just get back to some normality with our friends? You said at the beginning of the introduction that I was able to go to Goodison. I'd like to be able to go to Goodison to every home game. Obviously, I won't be able to do that. I was one of the lucky first ones, but I don't envisage I'll be back in Goodison in any time. And people want to see at Anfield, we want to see our teams performing. We need to get our business events moving again. We need to get our hotels full. And to do that, that's what we need to sort of concentrate on that. And then we need to look for long-term growth, bringing back the overseas and international visitors into the city so that everybody can start benefiting, from our tour guides to our taxi drivers to the restaurant staff to the musicians at the Philharmonic, the actors at the Playhouse and Everyman and the Royal Court. And that's what we need to do. So that's why the plan needs to be in place. So that plan is looking at ensuring that we have key elements of it, is about how we bring together local recovery as well as national recovery. And part of that is the work that we've been doing with Liverpool Without Walls. And we're working on that to, again, expand that into the winter and into the spring next year. Now, maintain places like Castle Street and Bold Street as the thriving environments they are, but look at that in other areas of the city as well. So, and that's what Elvem is working on at the moment. Our recovery plan will be one that we'll be looking to launch early in the new year. We'll be making a big call on how we support business, how we get recovery going, and then how we focus on marketing and bringing people back into our city.
Yep, great. And I think, just to reinforce what Bill's saying there, I think from our perspective, we definitely see the first 6 to 9 months next year being very much about the domestic market, the staycation market. Most countries are going to rebuild from that base first, and then hopefully towards the back end of the year, we might start to see a bit more of an emergence of that near European, if we get a deal with Brexit, maybe. We might see some of that returning, and then international from there on in. So we need to develop and build off our core strengths as to why you would come to Liverpool. So in a certain respect, we have a great opportunity for us to look at how we build in the rural and countryside elements and seaside elements of this great city region that gives us that element of space and openness, which I think will be really, really important as part of that. And also, as you mentioned there, Bill, we will actively work at the national level as well in terms of some of the national initiatives that need to be put in place to keep this sector going beyond March. When we get to March, the sector support can't stop. It has to continue. And then if we look at, the crisis, Bill, just this kind of final bit for now, in terms of going forward and the future of what we've learned from this and what we may do differently, and we may do in a kind of learning fashion to say, right, so what we did before COVID, we're not necessarily going to go back to, we're going to learn a bit. What from your perspective do you see, what are the kind of important elements of that? Not only probably from a visitor economy, but as you look at the landscape within your day job, within the bid.
Well, one of the key things that we've learned this year is how we can work together. And we can work together and connect together very easily. Prior to March the 16th, I mean, I remember on that first day when we were in our boardroom in the office and the announcement came from Boris to say, go home and work from home. And we were all scrambling around trying to think, well, how are we going to communicate with everybody? We just about worked with WhatsApp. And I remember in those days we were looking at hangouts and various things, but we all quickly adopted the various methods of communication, and we've come together and we've learned to work together because, the ecosystem that is in place. I always remember one of our first webinars from the bid and marketing Liverpool when we started. We had a restaurateur from Bold Street talking about how important it was for him with his restaurant in Bold Street to get the ACC and the convention centre moving again, to get people coming into the city and going into his restaurant. And the ecosystem we have in place needs to be strengthened and it needs to be built upon. One of the things that we do in a business improvement district is exactly that, but we have a piece of legislation called the Business Improvement District Act that allows us to, once we are voted into being, allows us to work with all of the businesses in a specific area. Next year in 21, it just happens to be, it's the renewal date for the commercial district bid, which is the part of the bid around Castle Street and Old Hall Street. And and it's no secret because we were very public about it. We have talked about expanding the bid across the city centre, and we were about to launch that, our manifesto in the spring. And so we are still talking about how we connect in all of the private sector businesses that drive our city centre through the commercial district, the waterfront, the knowledge quarter, and the city centre itself, how we connect all those together. And that is still on the table. We will begin a conversation in January about that. And that would bring in place an opportunity for us to have a 5-year plan which would support the recovery plan for the city. And an element of that, and again, we will talk about that in January, particularly with our hotels, is that conversation about visitor tax. We had that conversation. It hasn't gone away because we do need to support the recovery of the sector, and we need to support the recovery of the hotels in particular. So there is an opportunity within bid legislation for us to move towards a hotel bid that would connect all of the hotels together and fund our destination marketing, our events program, and work together more collaboratively. So that's all on the agenda for January and into 2021.
It'll be a busy year.
Yeah, as always, but that's great, isn't it?
Okay, thanks very much for now, Bill. Bill will rejoin and come back to us for the Q&A session at the end. What I would say about the recovery plan before we move on is the recovery plan is not a kind of developed in a dark room. It's kind of like trying to take on board the areas and things that you think are important for you as business, so the business support you feel you'll need, cost versus revenue, what kind of support do you need, the sort of initiatives that you would want to see that you think would help add value to growing and rebuilding your business base back again. So please feed those into us on a constant basis, please, so that we can basically discuss those at the LVM boards, make sure that those are captured. So this is not a top-down process. It's got to work both ends of the telescope. But thanks very much for that. For now, Bill, and thanks for all the work you've been doing this year on LVN and through your work with the Business Leaders Group. So we talked in the context of that a little bit about the opportunities that exist in terms of reaching new markets, being able to basically get to new audiences as we rebuild the tourism economy here in the city and city region. One very important part of that for us is the relationship with TXGB and Visit Britain. We think this gives a brilliant opportunity to give businesses a chance to get themselves out into that marketplace, visibility, access to digital infrastructure, really to build your business quicker. So I'm absolutely delighted that Dan can join us this morning to just kind of run through TXGB for you, where we're up to with it and the opportunities around it. So with no further ado, I'll hand over to yourself, Dan. Good morning to you, or good afternoon to you. Delighted you could join us.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for the introduction. Great to be here to talk to businesses in Liverpool about the opportunity with TXGB, and going to spend a few minutes just talking through, what TXGB is, why we exist, the challenge, and that we're trying to solve, and our purpose, and finally then talk specifically around some of the exciting opportunities that are quite unique to our platform and the businesses that are working with us, specifically around Visit Liverpool as a consumer-facing website, and the Rugby League World Cup squad trips initiative for October and November next year, which is pretty exciting. So if we just to move on to my next slide, please. So if we start with why TXGB exists to look to solve a problem which is, I suppose, born out of a great thing, which is a huge diversity of tourism products across the UK, across accommodation, attractions, experiences, tours and events, and really any product that you're looking to surface to more consumers, kind of in the tourism space, and because of the diversity across our products, everyone has different requirements for the technologies they use, the way they manage their bookings, their reservations, and so on. And as a consequence of that, there are hundreds and hundreds of different technologies in the market, different systems that you'll be using, and everyone on the Zoom call or in the room will likely be using a different type of system to manage their business. And as a consequence of that kind of fragmented technology landscape, it's very difficult for many of the consumer-facing services, websites, online travel agents, tour operators, to get access to digital access to your availability. Meaning, in turn, it's hard for them to convert, consumers into bookings, and then that means that a lot of businesses are not distributing product, or have a high dependency on some of the kind of bigger online travel agents, and kind of an over-reliance on those services maybe that have higher commission prices or booking terms that are not kind of in your control. And those players in the market serve a purpose, and they're important in many ways. But what TXGB is looking to do here is unlock the barriers that mean we create more connected market space and ultimately give more opportunity to our partners. So if I just move on to the next slide, please. So as Chris mentioned, TXGB was launched in partnership with Visit Britain, and we effectively sit in the centre of this, and we call it a marketplace or an exchange, and we are working to connect the different systems that I mentioned into a central engine room behind the scenes, a marketplace, in that kind of marketplace model that allows you to access an extended reach of distribution. And that marketplace is continuing to grow, and I'll just go through some I'll share with you now some of the different partners we're working with and how that works in practical terms. So if you just move on to the next slide, please. So as I said before, TXGB is open to all across the whole market, and we're actually looking to extend our reach beyond accommodation, attractions, activities to support restaurants, and also individual product purchase that maybe isn't an availability relevant thing, consumables and gift vouchers and things like that as well. So okay, moving on. So just to talk through some of the kind of detail of how this works. Of course, we're taking that availability in real time from your booking platform. We give you access to a dashboard that allows you to effectively select which of the distribution partners you'd like to work with. So the control is very much with the business, with you as the business. A lot of our partnerships work in a direct payment way, and the reason why that's important is not only does it make it easier for our distribution partners, i.e. those consumer-facing websites and so on, to work with us because we handle the kind of e-commerce flow on their behalf, but also it means that the transaction often, and in most cases, occurs directly between you as the business and the consumer. And of course, that means that you can get paid directly at the point of sale, protecting cash flow, but also gives you the consumer data. You own that consumer rather than a third party being involved in that transaction. And also, of course, you can define your own booking terms and be in control of that booking effectively, but allow other partners to fulfill your kind of marketing and advertising needs through distribution. So it's great that we're able to use this to support destinations. So working with destinations such as Visit Liverpool, Marketing Liverpool, and the Visit Liverpool website, we're able to provide effectively a more direct way of being bookable on those platforms. So that might mean being able to replace a current availability search that is relying on an affiliate link to an OTA, or it might be enhancing bookability for businesses that weren't previously able to access and bookable on the Visit Liverpool website, for example. And importantly, it gives our colleagues at Visit Liverpool more control about how they can manage marketing campaigns and any commission that's paid in those bookings, rather than being paid towards a third party, actually is able to stay within Liverpool and allow the Marketing Liverpool team, and of course they can use that funding as part of a virtuous loop of enhancing the local marketing campaigns and so on. So TXGB is free to join. There are no setup fees or monthly fees, so we very much see this as a no win, no fee model. TXGB, we have a 2.5% per booking fee that allows us to build our network. And then each distributor will define their own commission fee, which in most cases is much lower than many of the channels you might be working with currently. So we like to see this as an opportunity to access what we refer to as the long tail of the market, where we can get, access many different platforms to access different verticals of consumer that you might not be able to currently access in a way that is free unless you get value out of that partnership. So if I just move on now, I'll just talk about the different connectivity partners we're working with. So of course, this is what's important here is, of course, we need to be able to access your source system. So here's a list of the accommodation system partners we're working with. In the case of Super Control, we hope that is launched early in the new year. And there are others here, and for example, SiteMinder, you might know as a big channel manager that has access to hundreds of different property management systems behind it. So there's that's our kind of current scope in the accommodation space. And if you don't see your system on there, then it's highly likely that we are in conversations as we continue to grow our market. To try and build, or our plan is, of course, and our expectation is to build the largest source of bookable content that's available in the UK. And just to move on to the activity side, so in the kind of things to do space, again, these are the partners we are working with. So really excited to have quite a lot of key experience and activity partners already working with us. And we know where there are locally relevant partnerships. We will hope to work with those system providers to build a network that suits everybody and gives everybody the access that they need to get this value return. So just to move on again, please. We have in lieu of a current connection, or maybe if you don't have a system at all, if maybe you're not taken that move to be online bookable, or the system you use doesn't distribute, perhaps you've got your own kind of bespoke system, we do offer a free TX load tool, which is a inventory loader built into our system. So it should really mean that there is no barrier to entry for any business to take part in this. But of course, our goal is to give you direct access to the systems you use, rather than using a separate system. We recognise that isn't the most seamless way of working. But TX Load does offer an opportunity for businesses that are looking to get their first steps into distribution to do so in a cost-effective way and get access to these channels and be involved in these kind of local campaigns and national campaigns and so on. So just to move on, this is a list of our current partnerships. So we're working with over 120 distribution partners already. We're powering bookability or enhancing bookability on over 40 destination websites. So Visit Liverpool is one of those, and you'll see from the list that most local visit websites are now looking to use TXGB to enhance their offering. We're also working with national assets like the Visit Britain shop, and previously or up to this point, quite difficult for an experience provider or an attraction to get access to get your product bookable on the shop. In fact, they've depended on allocation of product in the past, whereas through relaunching that system using TXGB, they're able to get access to live availability, which makes it much easier for you as a business to service your product to consumer in those channels. We partnered with a lot of the kind of established OTAs, online travel agents. Should you wish to connect to them through our system, though, of course, we recognise again that this is an optional service for you. So if you already have access to some of these channels through your current systems, you wouldn't be looking to connect to them through TXGB. But there are different. We will play different roles for different types of businesses based on your current the maturity of your current distribution network. And so, just to move on, finally, and quite excited to talk about. Very excited to talk about the concept of squad trips for the Rugby League World Cup. So, as part of kind of what the value we see in TXGB coming to market and being available to distribution partners, and in this case, the Rugby League World Cup team, it's enabling events and other partnerships to take advantage of this open network, and rather than maybe partnering with a specific technology partner or OTA to fulfill their bundles, tickets plus accommodation or experiences, the Rugby League World Cup team made a decision to work with TXGB to make that a very open and inclusive opportunity. So what that means is if you're part of the TXGB network, you can very easily make your product bookable on a within bundles, ticket bundles, that for the Rugby League, and we've got a good amount of allocation of tickets per game. There will be a Liverpool dedicated Liverpool squad trips page. Squad trips being the kind of the term they're using for ticket plus accommodation or ticket plus attraction ticket. And so these tickets will only be able to be purchased alongside a locally relevant tourism product, which we think is fantastic for businesses to take advantage of. It means an opportunity to, exclusive access to bookings for event that's going to happen in October and November next year. And the only way to take part of that is through TXGB and in a very direct way with a low commission cost. So just an example of a partnership and the first kind of big event partnership we've established, and we obviously hope there's many more to come across different and similar events. But that's really excited to announce that partnership and that opportunity. And we plan to launch the Liverpool squad trip page early in the new year. So excited to share that with you today. And really that's, I've obviously rushed through quite a bit of detail there. If you just move on to the next slide, just in terms of contact details. So we find there are always questions when we discuss the TXGB with partners, because everybody has every tourism business has a different need and a different kind of situation with the systems they use and their current distribution network and so on. So we have a support team that are available to help and support people through that kind of journey of getting online bookable and enhancing their distribution. So we're more than happy to speak to anybody and kind of guide you through that process of becoming online bookable. So that's really it from me today. But obviously happy to stick around and answer any questions at the Q&A.
Great, thanks very much, Dan. And we'll make sure that those slides are on the ML website for you, and we'll also be, holding your hand with this as well as we kind of accelerate our work with TXGB. And, so please fire in any questions you got about that, either directly to us or to the contact details that Dan's given you there. But I thought it might just be useful for you to get a bit of a validation for what for what Dan's been talking about there, and hopefully I've got Tom Cassidy on the line from Anfield in terms of the work that he certainly does on digital platforms. So Tom, maybe just a few words from your good self about the importance of digital infrastructure and the kind of stuff you've just heard there from Dan.
Yeah, hello everyone. Sorry, Chris, you cut out a little bit there. So I guess you just wanted me to share a few tips and experiences.
Yeah, if you could, that's great.
So firstly, hello to everybody, season's greetings. For us, where possible, and I'm going to be slightly controversial, always look to try and give us a book direct. You've got a higher yield, customer data, but this is not always possible. Get new customers through digital partners. Whilst they obviously take the commission, they also do all the hard work. They get you the visitors, whether it's on search engine optimization, their partnerships, or other marketing. So there's a low risk to it as well. Many times they converse in a customer's native language and also take payments in their currency, using their payment methods. So for example, China, I mean, who in a meeting or on a call, is set up to deal with the myriad of payments options from a Chinese audience. They give greater experience for your business, so on their own channels. My own experience, when I've been traveling, I've always booked with, not with TXGB, because obviously they're very much inbound, but, we Get Your Guide or Viators. So, there's almost a bit of a safety net when I'm booking with them. So it gave me peace of mind around, secure booking, point of reference for any follow-ups or any customer experience issues. They all have review functions as well. So, so whether you're going on a boat trip in Thailand or whatever food experience in Vietnam, you can review, before you go. They also white label, I think, as Dan pointed out before, it's not just about TXGB, it's all the partnerships, and that is consistent, with other digital platforms as well. The smaller operators are positioned alongside other businesses, no matter about the size and scale. I done a bit of research before the call today, and the offer in Liverpool has never looked so good for attractions, but there's still some of the niche attractions which just with a little bit of knowledge, confidence, hand holding, it'll be great to help to move them onto the digital platforms next year. We about 3 years ago, when we kind of launched new operations, and we weren't integrated anywhere near where it is now. So we were missing out on so many opportunities, but we listened to the market in terms of what we needed to do to be able to be listed on there. And I'm confident now that we cover pretty much everywhere in terms of digital sales opportunities. But we're always there. We're on TXGB, we're on Get Your Guide, we're on Expedia, we're on Viator, etc. I mean, the companies are very good at what they do as well, which is selling product. I mean, again, if anyone's scratching their head thinking, we need to improve our kind of our digital presence, have a look at what they do, the best practices, how the website is set up, and learn. Obviously, do get listed on there as well. But there's plenty to list, and probably the most important thing is, I think as Dan mentioned, there's no risk in setting up of it in time. What's really important though is, as we go into a new year, and whenever your new financial year is, it's vital that you position your prices accordingly, so you can still work with them, but you're still making money. Don't set your prices after you've aligned working with these third parties. You've got to open your business, and you've got to run your business to make money. But with the right systems in place, you can always manage those yields. So, for example, if Saturday morning is where you're full anyway, then just turn the tap off in terms of or reduce the amount of visitors who are coming through on a on a commissionable basis, onto those peak times as well. You know, it's all about availability and transparency. I mean, just coming out of COVID as well, it's really important to maximize all the opportunities, you know, including all the third parties. You know, we've done very well out of the digital gift experience marketing as well. That's probably one for another day. Tailor your offer for a domestic audience. You know, and Chris might have mentioned earlier in the call, you know, we are going to see a slow recovery, but the overseas market is going to take a little bit of time to get to, you know, to get to where it has. I'm always contactable these days. I'm London based, but as we come out of COVID and into 2021, I'm going to be in Liverpool more, you know, taking a more hands-on approach, you know, both for what we do at Liverpool Football Club, but, you know, I sit on the LVM board, you know, work with the attractions group. So, you know, when I say us, you know, I see this as being the collective us as well, with a much stronger proposition. If we have all products available, you know, kind of just a richer cultural offer as well. So, you know, if anyone's got any questions, Chris, you know, I'm going to put you on the spot, but, you know, I see some wins, you know, and maybe we can just set up as we go into 2021, just, you know, just a couple of workshops, couple of catch-ups, and, you know, with those who maybe have a bit of trepidation or just need to find out more about it. And just before I go, just like to wish everyone a merry and safe Christmas, and just give a big thanks to Chris and to Bill and their teams as well. We'd be in a much weaker position now if it wasn't for them. I am speaking to you from the Hotel Indigo in Liverpool, and I'm wondering why aren't I at the Pullman or why aren't I somewhere else? But anyway, and then I'm off to London in a bit to go and join London in time for Tier 3 tomorrow.
Great.
That's it. I hope that's been useful for everybody.
Thanks very much, Tom. That's some great insights there. And as Tom said, you know, we're gonna make sure that this is very much connected into the work of Elven and the work of the attractions group. And I know Tom was going to give us some help and insights in that space, because this is about arming you with more tools in your bag to be able to access the markets that fundamentally can bring business to you. So thanks very much for that, Tom. We look forward to catching up with you soon. Okay, so now I'm going to see whether the hybrid technology works. I'm going to see whether I can beam myself from Aintree into the Pullman Hotel, and see if you're there, James. Are you there, James?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good man.
Fingers crossed, so I think everything's working.
Okay.
First of all, I'd just like to say good afternoon to everybody and welcome to the Pullman Hotel. We are on the Liverpool waterfront. It's a beautiful sunny day out there. This is also the very first live event that we've done this year, so all very exciting. Big thanks to Sarah and the team at the Pullman as well for letting us have this space for this afternoon, which is great. Just a quick reminder, I know some of the speakers have been talking about putting in questions. Please do use slido.com to put forward your questions. The passcode for that is MLPool. Okay, thank you for that. So without further ado, we'll move on to the next speaker. So I'd like to introduce Sharon Simons from the Liverpool Film Office, who's going to tell you all about the exciting work that they've been doing. Over to you, Sharon.
Hello, everyone. So the film sector, so amid all the uncertainty, the film sector has been booming this year. It was the first sector sort of out the doors once the 2-metre rule was relaxed in July. You know, it was sort of back on track. You know, they were all the productions that were on hold were sort of, you know, coming back to film. So yeah, it's a really positive story for the city. So the Liverpool Film Office we celebrated our 30th anniversary last year in 2019, and we were established by the Liverpool City Council to reap the economic benefits of filming. And we're the first film office in Europe, and we were set up to answer the rise in demands from filmmakers around the world to base their productions in Liverpool. Since then, our welcoming nature and independent spirit has helped us grow into one of the leading agencies in the UK for screen sector. So what do we do? Next slide. So locations. So Liverpool really is a world in one city. You probably see it as, you know, London, New York, recently as Gotham City. So yeah, we've got you know, a wealth of sort of grade 1 listed buildings, and you can go from the city to woodlands and beaches all in the same day of shooting. Facilities, so that's something that I'm working on. We like to call this the moon on a stick. We want to sort of, you know, make life easy for the productions, you know, don't say no, you know, any way we can help them, we will. And I think that's why, you know, I think it's just a Scouse thing, you know, Scousers just want to sort of like really help and welcome them. So we'll help them from everything from hotels, which is something we've developed in the last year or so, studio, offices, prop storage, lighting, waste management, you name it, you know, personal trainers. And we'll always try and make sure that they're using local companies if we can, you know, that's what it's about. We want to sort of, you know, we want Liverpool to reap the benefits. Crew, so the strategy is that we you know, obviously it's thriving, we want local crew who are registered on our database to stay in Liverpool. We want to make sure that they've got, you know, they're employed, you know, they've always got sort of work, so there's no need to move to London, you know, to get work, you know, it's all here. And talent, so there's our own Jodie Comer there, so Jodie and Stephen Graham are going to be starring in a production that the Liverpool Film Fund is funding, so that'll be early next year, so she'll be back with Stephen. Next slide. So the welcome, why Liverpool? Well, you know, Liverpool it's well known for its welcome, you know, we're friendly, you know, we're welcome amongst crew, and if that's one of the reasons why they come back, you know, a lot of productions will say, you know, it's long nights, you know, when they are filming, and there's so much for them to do. And, you know, I've noticed sort of while I've been doing this role, it's, you know, I feel like you're an extended part of my team, you know, you really look after them and welcome them, and, you know, that's why they keep coming back. I always hear stories from hotels, you know, what they've done for productions. You know, I'll hear of one that'll give them the same room each time. Then, you know, you hold luggage, you know, there's one that I know one hotel, the receptionist ends up babysitting a dog for a lead cast. So, you know, it's just, I think it's just natural to us that we, you know, we are so sort of helpful. And yeah, so we just go beyond the essential filming in infrastructure. And the next one. So we're also a dedicated partner. So you might have heard that we launched a 2 million film fund in 2019. And we have all the productions have gone to panel, and we've got a production that's currently filming at the moment, Time, with Stephen Graham and Sean Bean, and then next year there'll be 3 productions from January to April, May. So there's a, you know, we're going to be busy next year. There's a nice sort of flow of productions for next year as well, and then the development funds. So during lockdown, the team were busy to set up a targeted support for local creatives, so a fast track for the industry's recovery. So we were actually awarded last night, sorry, not awarded, shortlisted the Movers and Shakers Award in the Focus Film Festival. So, you know, that was against other sort of film commissions around the world. So it's really good to be shortlisted for that. And then really exciting, news for next year is the pop-up studios. You might have seen that they've been that's been approved a week or so ago. So we're going to have 2 20,000 square feet pop-up stages in Edge Lane, and that'll be phase 1 of the Littlewood site, which brings me to the next slide, the future. So there's Littlewoods, so exciting, you know, it should be ready about in 3 years' time. So phase 1 of Littlewoods will be our own sound stages, the 20,000 square feet sound stages. So I've already done recce's for them with productions, and, you know, it's starting to get work done now, but it was just sort of overgrown grass, and it was just like, you know, it's just here, and productions, just through the inquiries were coming in, they were just really excited about it. So it's really needed these pop-up stages. So yeah, it's fantastic news. With regards to Littlewood Studios, Twickenham and Liverpool John Moores University are going to be the anchor tenants. They've been confirmed, which is again, fantastic for the sort of the crew strategy that, you know, we're going to be sort of, you know, going to have an education partner that, you know, they'll study in Liverpool and then hopefully stay in Liverpool because, you know, we've got the work for them. And then currently in the works, so there's a few productions there that you'll have probably seen it in the press. Tin Star Liverpool was actually filmed last year, 2019, and was actually called Tin Star Liverpool, which is amazing. So, so Liverpool was actually filmed as Liverpool. Time is filming now, and Batman. So a lot of the memes were going around saying Batman, you know, on top of the live builds, and he was sort of here to rescue us out of tier 3, which is quite funny. And I think it was a really good message to productions that if we can still film, you know, in tier 3, you know, it's you know, it's really, really positive. So and they were really pleased, Batman, they were really pleased with everything. So it was great. And Irregulars, they sort of stopped filming lockdown in March, and then they restarted in January. So they were like one of the first productions to restart. And Netflix have agreed they're going to be putting, I think it's a billion into the UK for filming. So Liverpool will reap some of the benefits of that as well. So that's positive. So the next slide. So this means more. So based on 6 months production in 2020, 212 different film and TV projects filmed in the Liverpool City region, producing 760 film days. So it supported 245 jobs and 490 indirect induced jobs. So even though we were, you know, in a lockdown, we were only sort of, you know, productions were only functioning for 6 months, we still brought an inward investment of 13.6 million. So last year in 2020, the inward investment was 17 million. So it just shows that, you know, and the likes of, you know, Batman, it's been fantastic for the city. I think in October, the hotels really needed it. And I noticed the occupancy ADR and RevPAR went up those sort of 2 weeks that they were there. So yeah, it was great. And then the next one, please. So Home to the Stars. So you can probably see that's Malmaison's lobby where Tin Star filmed. So my background's hotels. So when you know, I sort of put forward the idea to Lynn Saunders, you know, you need to have an in-house booking service, you know, there's a massive opportunity. And she's, you know, she gave me a chance, and 2 years later, we're basically quoting on practically every production that comes through. And it's not just the hotels, as I said, it's, you know, the studios, office space, it's that kind of, you know, that whole service. So this year, the film sector have generated 2.1 million to the hotel sector in the Liverpool City region. So that includes the likes of Batman, Irregulars, So Awkward and Time. Again, the aim is, you know, the likes of the Batmans, the big high-end dramas, that's what, you know, that's what we're going for. And the pop-ups, that is what we're looking for, you sort of high-end, long-term dramas that'll stay, you know, for years on end, and obviously spend in the city. So that's an average of about 25,000 room nights in the city, and an average rate of about 83. So I mean, a lot of the time they'll want sort of your boutique hotels or apartments, but, you know, sometimes, you know, it depends on each level of the crew. So, you know, obviously director and cast will want a higher level, but sometimes, you know, heads of departments and, you know, the runners and things like that, they'll have different rates. So yeah, it's been really positive. And I know a lot of hotels have sort of said, you know, I know one hotel, you know, they were sort of closed over tier 3, and they reopened for a production. So, you know, if we can, you know, keep the level of film, and, you know, we'll you know, we'll hopefully be able to fill more bed nights. So the next slide, please. So we want to make you a part of our story. So we've already established the accommodation service, and next year we want to look at the F&B side with a loyalty card. So and it's not done with any film officers, but we want to produce about 10,000 like not reward cards, but crew cards, and the hotels and so restaurants and bars can put their offers on. Now, generally, the productions get a per diem, an allowance of about 25 a night. So, you know, if we know what the budgets are, you can sort of build packages for them. And I just think it's a really nice message to, you know, when crew come in, you know, in the hotel, they've got the crew card and they know, you know, these establishments are welcome them, they want them to come, and it just reinforces that welcome. And another thing myself and Chris were talking about is the screen tourism. Creative England have reported that cities that have a high level of productions, it attracts tourism. So we obviously, you know, we're the most filmed city outside of London. So we've seen there's an opportunity here for us. And we're going to put a strategy together, but, you know, it might be like, you know, a tour or a map and linking, you know, those places that have been filmed with those, you know, if there's restaurants nearby or attractions, we really want to, you know, get them through your door. And then the film office accreditation, that sort of like ties in a bit with the loyalty card. And it's something that Film LA do. And they've got stickers across the city and like restaurants and bars and, you know, the airport. And it's that welcome when they come in. It says, I love Film LA. And we want to do something similar like that. So the likes of, you know, it could be training for the hotels, and they get an accreditation from us. And a part of that is this sort of a plaque or a sticker. And in the reception or on the window, it says, you know, I love Film Liverpool. And I think it is that sort of reinforcement, you know, to the crew and production that, you know, we really do want you here, and, you know, we really do welcome them. So, and they do feel that, they really do feel that. So yeah, it's you know, it's been brilliant working with the film office and developing this service, and I think it's worked well because I feel like a cog between the productions and the hotels. And, you know, sometimes the productions will say, especially if they're not from Liverpool, they feel lonely. So, you know, we kind of hold the hands and just, you know, make the life easy, introduce them over to you, and you carry on that service. So, you know, we're a team of 7, but, you know, we feel like we're a team of 700 because, you know, the whole city are just amazing and welcoming, and, you know, we just want to continue that. So yeah, thank you very much. That's it from me. Sit down.
Great, thank you very much, Sharon. How exciting is that? I'm certainly looking forward to Batman, that's for sure. So again, we're moving into the next stage now, which will be the Q&A session. So hopefully we've got lots of questions which have been coming in on Slido. We've got questions here from our live audience here in the Pullman as well. So I think if we can go to the first question, which I think is from Mr. Bob Pratty from ACC Liverpool.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Pullman Hotel, which is part of the ACC complex. Question really is more of a statement, but a question for Chris around re-establishing confidence in the visitor economy. We've been effectively closed down for 38 weeks due to a variety of restrictions around COVID and so on. We're now back on the horse. As we move down into tier 2, we were able to start again. We've done the downtown conference, which has already been mentioned. This weekend, we're starting a pantomime. Oh, yes, we are. And we're also doing a couple of small concerts. But the restrictions from COVID, even being in tier 2, means that we're limited to our capacities. So, for example, in the arena, we can only do up to 1,000 people. So the 2 or 3 concerts we've got this weekend, we're limited to a capacity of 1,000. We're already sold out on those. In the convention centre, again, we're limited to a capacity of 1,000, and we can only do a conference over one day. And you'll know that most of our conferences are over 2 or 3 days normally, so we're restricted on that, which is really kind of questioning our future viability in terms of our ability to do what our customers want us to do. And the impact on that really for the visitor economy and for the people in the room and on the screen and so on is what impact that is having. We generate something like £200 million a year into the visitor economy through the activities. That tap has been completely turned off. And although we're back on the horse doing some events, we really need that confidence building. We need to get back to a full capacity position. And obviously the holy grail is vaccination. But in the interim, in the short term, before that's rolled out, we're actually encouraging smart testing. For example, on the event we did downtown, the price of entry was literally you had to have a negative test. Before, and that was part of the entry process. So we're exploring that, we're continuing that, but we need to work really closely with Marketing Liverpool and all our other supporters in the city to actually get back to full capacity. So it'll be interesting to see on the 16th, which I think is tomorrow, isn't it, when the government announced whether we're still in tier 2 or whether we're moving and what those restrictions may change, because the thing changes. So we need to work very effectively with Marketing Liverpool to maintain the confidence in people and our customers to come back to Liverpool. Liverpool's ready and available and open. And I'm just wondering, in terms of the question, what help Chris and Marketing Liverpool can give us in that context.
Thanks very much, Bob. Thanks for a number of different observations there, which I'll kind of bring Bill on in a second. I think what I would say is that, what it does highlight to me is that it's going to take us some time to rebuild our markets. We're not going to go back automatically to where we were. It's going to take us a bit of time to do that, and that's going to be the challenge we all have. I think that's when we mentioned earlier on, I was talking to Bill about the recovery plan and the processes behind that and how we rebuild our consumer confidence, how we rebuild our business and event sector. We have to, in a certain respect, not fall into a dangerous trap of expecting that all to come back naturally. We're going to have to be an accelerant with it. We're going to have to really mobilize and get our storyboard and our narrative ready. Got to come out the blocks fast in 21 and make sure that, like every other city will be, they're going to be rebuilding their markets, both domestically and internationally. So a lot of hard work ahead, but we've built up a good collaboration, got a good sort of a set of partners who I think are all committed towards that kind of Team Liverpool ethos. And I'm very confident that we can rebuild there, but let's have no doubts about it. It's going to be tough and it's going to be a hard graft, particularly over the first 6 to 9 months until that vaccine begins to take space. So I'll kind of just hand over to Bill for any closing comments, Bill, from yourself, just in terms of your reflections and what Bob was saying, anything, just in terms of what you're looking forward for 21, and then we'll kind of bring the session to a close. Yeah.
Thanks, Chris, and thank you to everybody that was either at the Pullman in a physical but socially distanced environment or watching from your office or home. Just to sum up really, Chris, and it's to say that 21 is going to be a year when we recover as a city. We know that the city has come on leaps and bounds, hasn't it, in the last 20 years. And we're seeing an amazing growth coming from 2019 and 2020 in the beginning before the virus. So 2021, we know we will bounce back. But to do that, we all need to work together. We all need to ensure that all of our plans, coordinated, deliver for us a successful year. But at the heart of it, as I said right at the beginning, is to make sure that 2021 is the year that we can come out together. We can come out and be physical together in the environments that we have in our city. People say to me that, what's going to happen next year is every city in the UK is going to be desperate for the people to come into their cities. But the one thing we have in Liverpool is that unique aspect of a city which is in a fantastic place with so many, many assets, too many to talk about today. But the most important thing is, as part of the visitor economy here in Liverpool and across the city region, as I said, we work together, we fight together, and we will deliver together great and exceptional events, great exceptional restaurants and hotels, great exceptional service. And so my last word really is to say to everybody, just have a great Christmas. It'll be different this year, but make sure that you enjoy it. Make sure you get some rest and make sure you are able to be fit and well and ready to go in 2021.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Bill. Yeah. So just in closing, just a few thanks, because these events don't come together without a lot of people working collectively. So my big thanks to the MSP team, the team at Pullman, and from the ML team, particularly, Stefan, Suzanne, and my new co-commentator, Mr. Wood, there at the Pullman. So thanks very much to you guys, and also obviously to our speakers, who I hope brought together some great content for you today. So Bill himself around the recovery plan. Sharon, very much around that film office and the film tourism element. I'm really excited about that. I think we can really do some great work there and build on a really booming sector for the city. Dan and the opportunities around TXGB, very clearly validated and supported by Tom, that I think we can really take forward. So I think there's a number of really exciting things to look forward to. We'll also, alongside that, hopefully be introducing the City Pass that we've talked about a few times. We're very hopeful that will be launched early in the new year as well. So looking at different initiatives to stimulate the market. Just a reminder also that we have our final webinar with the bid this coming Thursday, midday to 1 o'clock. That will be focusing on the events sector. We're delighted that we've got some events going at ACC, events going at Everyman, events going at Royal Court, Philharmonic, football going back, racing coming back. So a number of different things there, but a long way to go in the events sector. So again, for myself, have a great Christmas, have a great New Year. Come back firing in 21. We're going to really get out the blocks quick in 21, and let's make sure that 21 is going to be a lot better than 20, but it can't be much worse, can it? So thanks very much for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy a break if you can get one over the Christmas, New Year. Look forward to seeing you in 21. But from us all here at Aintree and at the Pullman, thanks very much for joining us. Good night. Good night. Goodbye.